At our wedding, my wife Jessica Greene suggested that her stand-in marry me, Chris Morgan, while she traveled the world with her lover, Logan Parker. Everyone thought I would be furious and cancel the wedding. Instead, I just smiled and handed her the financial report, telling her to enjoy life with her lover while I took care of the company's small matters. My wife thought I had finally been tamed. After casually signing the contract I gave her, she promised me that when she came back, I would get a promotion and a raise. What she didn't know was that what she signed wasn't a financial report at all. It was the transfer of her shares and our divorce agreement. A month later, when my wife returned, eager to take back control of the company, she found that I had become the new CEO and that she had been fired. The self-proclaimed clever woman was left stunned. Chris, the stand-in's already changed into her wedding dress. Go on and take the vows with her. I've got a flight to catch, so I'll leave you to it. At the wedding, my CEO wife Jessica was wearing workout clothes. With a smile, she shoved another woman into my arms and urged me to go up and get married. It should have been a joyful day, but as I looked at the stand-in, who looked about 70% like Jessica, I couldn't bring myself to smile. I had been with Jessica for 7 years. When it came to our wedding, she always said she was too busy with work and didn't have time. She kept saying, once the company is stable and we're listed, we can talk about marriage. I worked tirelessly for her, building teams, pulling in business, and sacrificing my youth and health. In the end, I helped the company go public. Finally, after all this effort, I thought our wedding day had arrived. I thought we would finally walk down the aisle together. But now she had suddenly changed her mind and sent a stand-in to take her place. Seeing me stay silent, Jessica checked her watch and grew impatient. Chris, it's our big day. What are you giving me that sour face for? If it weren't for our 7 years together, I would have let you go out there and make a fool of yourself with a stand-in. As it is, I'm being nice by letting you go through with this. Just tell me, are we getting married or not? As soon as she finished speaking, our colleagues and friends, almost rehearsed, started pressuring me. Chris, it's just a different person walking down the aisle. Why make this difficult? Yeah, Mr. Morgan, with a wife like Ms. Greene, successful and beautiful, you won't find better. Besides, the stand-in looks almost identical to Ms. Greene. No one will know the difference. The guests all spoke in unison, as if scolding me for being in the wrong. It was obvious to me that from the start, I was the only one kept in the dark. And no matter how fine their words sounded, their looks were filled with disdain and condescension. To them, I was probably just a dog on a leash owned by Jessica. After all, if Jessica truly loved me, why would she send a stand-in to marry me while she traveled with Logan? Instead of getting angry, I turned to look at Logan, the real culprit behind it all. Although Logan was Jessica's lover, he had abandoned her 10 years ago. Back then, Logan dumped her to flatter other rich girls. Now, seeing her become successful, he quickly came back crying about how much he loved her over the years and claiming his departure had hidden reasons. To my surprise, Jessica not only believed him right away, but also brought him into the company as an executive. To even accompany him on a trip, she casually found a substitute to cover for my carefully prepared wedding. The next moment, Logan noticed my gaze and grinned even wider. What are you staring at? Jessica didn't completely ditch you. She even found a stand-in to help you with the wedding. You should be grateful. If you don't want Jessica to go on a trip with me, just say it. Don't act innocent like some martyr. You think no one can see through your schemes? I listened to Logan's accusations, but couldn't help but laugh coldly inside. Logan's tactics were as low as they were before when we worked together in the company. Since he came back and Jessica brought him into it, he'd been using twisted words deliberately provoking me. Little by little, not only had gossip spread about me being a master schemer, but even Jessica began believing Logan's lies over time. But this time, I wasn't playing along anymore, not their childish games nor manipulations. With calm resolve, I smiled lightly. How could I stop you two from going on a trip? Miss Greene has worked so hard for the company. Now it's my time to give back. As for the wedding and company matters, I'll follow Miss Greene's decisions. You two just go enjoy your trip. With that, I handed Jessica a stack of papers and smiled. Miss Greene, here's this month's financial report. If you sign it, I'll notify finance to release salaries this afternoon. Seeing that I agreed so easily, Jessica was momentarily stunned. She stared at me for a long time before finally nodding in satisfaction, not even glancing at the papers, and just flipped to the last page, signing her name in bold strokes. It would have been better if you did this earlier. You did well today. Handle the wedding and company matters, and when I come back from my trip, we can consider giving you a promotion and raise. If I had heard this before, maybe I would have been happy thinking Jessica finally recognized my hard work. But now, I saw clearly that she didn't love me. She just didn't want to handle everything herself. The company had just gone public and everyone was swamped with work, left with countless problems. But she didn't understand any of it. She was only looking for an excuse to go off with Logan, to relax and take a break. If she divorced me now without me handling everything for her, how could she go out and date without worry? But when she mentioned promoting me and giving me a raise, Logan immediately furrowed his brow. Managing the company for Jessica is already your responsibility. You don't seriously think she'll promote or raise your salary, do you? If it weren't for your incompetence and continuous decline in performance, Jessica wouldn't be so tired that she needs to go on a trip to relax. You agree, right, Jessica? At that, I couldn't help but twitch my lips. If it weren't for Jessica insisting on bringing someone like Logan into the company and even giving him a major role as project leader, the company's performance wouldn't have been so bad. But Jessica didn't hesitate for a second, immediately agreeing with Logan. Logan's right. I almost fell for your acting again. A $5,000 salary a month? I'm not just giving it to you for free. Hearing Jessica's words, I couldn't help but feel bitter laughter rise in my chest. She actually had the nerve to bring up my salary. This company was my creation. By the time Logan and Jessica were out of sight, I turned away, walking toward the wedding venue, grabbing the microphone and clearing my throat. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm sorry to announce today's wedding is canceled. But don't worry, I'll cover the bill. Enjoy yourselves. Consider it an early Christmas Eve dinner. The room erupted into shocked murmurs, but quickly returned to a lively buzz. After all, who wouldn't enjoy a free meal and drinks? As for me, I left the event immediately, rushing back to the company to hold an urgent shareholders meeting. Between uncertain love and a firm grasp on stock equity, I felt much more secure. Before the meeting started, my assistant reminded me that according to protocol, I still had to give Jessica a call and inform her. I shrugged, not bothered at all. After all, the agreement was already signed, and even if she objected, it wouldn't change a thing. But when I picked up the phone, it was Logan who answered first, immediately starting to yell. Enough, Chris. You really are pathetic. I heard from the substitute that you canceled the wedding. Do you really think this will make Jessica feel sorry or care about you? I've already blocked your number and WhatsApp on her phone. She has no idea what's going on, and even if you change numbers, it's pointless. Everyone can see I'm Jessica's true love. You're just a figurehead husband. Did you really think you meant something? Get back to work. Jessica's happy with me now and has no time for your petty problems. With that, he hung up. The moment the call ended, everyone in the meeting room awkwardly glanced at me, but I didn't care one bit. Jessica's little stunt had been the talk of the company ever since Logan joined. It was obvious he was flaunting his relationship with her, but Jessica was letting it happen, even enjoying the attention. Before all this, I'd been in a secret relationship with her for 7 years. No one had found out. She repeatedly insisted we keep it private, claiming we couldn't have rumors spreading around, especially because of the company. It wasn't until our marriage was announced that everyone found out we'd been together for 7 years. 7 years, I'd hidden like a mouse in the shadows, afraid that it might affect her career. But now, as soon as Logan arrived, he wanted to shout to the world, proving to everyone that he was her true soulmate. This was the difference between love and indifference. At this point, though, I wasn't even angry. Instead, I almost felt sorry for Jessica. If she knew Logan had kept an important matter like a shareholder meeting from her, dismissing it as nothing more than a trivial matter, she would probably be furious and might even strangle him on the spot. The thought made me smile bitterly as I slammed Jessica's stock transfer document down on the table. I'll be straight with you. From now on, I'm the largest shareholder and chairman of the company. Any objections? Hearing this, no one in the room shook their heads. In fact, some even looked excited, their eyes lighting up. After all, none of these people were particularly close to Jessica. They were just there to make money. They also knew that the company had reached this point because I'd been holding it together all along. Jessica knew nothing about management, and ever since Logan joined, he'd been making reckless decisions that caused performance to plummet month after month. They were angry, but too scared to speak up. Now that the company was back in my hands, they wholeheartedly supported me. After taking care of everything, I returned to my office and received a message from Logan. In the video, Jessica, who had supposedly gone on a trip, had suddenly changed into a wedding dress I hadn't seen before, walking down the aisle hand in hand with Logan. Chris, you canceled your wedding with the stand-in. What good did that do? You only saved your sorry reputation. You've never seen Jessica in a wedding dress, have you? You don't really think we're on a trip, do you? Jessica herself said she wanted to save her first time wearing a wedding dress for me, and we would have our wedding to make up for all the years we lost. I watched the video, showing Jessica and Logan wearing matching wedding bands on their ring fingers. I couldn't help but scoff. Jessica had told me the reason she didn't get a matching ring with me was that the diamond ring didn't come in a couple's version, so she didn't forget about the ring at all. She had already given it to Logan. After that, Logan didn't stop taunting me almost every day. Chris, it's pretty late. You're still stuck at the office, aren't you? You must be exhausted. Want me to send you money for coffee? After all, Jessica just transferred $1 million to me. Oh, poor me. Too much money and nowhere to spend it. Chris, did Jessica not reply to your messages again today? Well, what can I say? We're on our honeymoon, eyes only on me. Too busy sightseeing to have time for you. Don't get jealous now. I looked at the messages Logan sent and could only coldly smile, saving the evidence and forwarding it to my lawyer. These pieces of evidence, even if they tried to act like I was a sore loser, would backfire on her. A month flew by in no time. After working non-stop to adjust the business, I was exhausted and finally could get a good night's sleep. But just as I was drifting in and out of sleep, a slap landed across my face. Chris, it's already past 4 a.m. and you're still sleeping like a dead pig. Get up and throw your stinky clothes out. Don't dirty the luggage. I looked up to see Logan suddenly standing in my home, a frown forming on my face. Are you crazy? This is my house. How did you get in? Of course, Jessica brought me here. From now on, this room is Logan's. It's closer to the company, so it's more convenient for him to come to work. Do you have any objections? I was stunned for a moment, instinctively asking, this is my house. If I don't live here, then where am I supposed to go? Logan scoffed dismissively. Who cares where you live? Ms. Greene pays your salary, so you can rent a place of your own if you want. And this house isn't yours. It's Ms. Greene's house, and Ms. Greene's house is mine. Like, she can let anyone stay in her house. What, got a problem with that? I stared at Logan, his illogical reasoning making me laugh in anger. These two were done pretending. At that moment, I couldn't help but show a cold smile, grabbing their luggage and seeing them obediently following orders. Jessica finally nodded in satisfaction. At least you know your place. When you head back to the office. But before she could finish, I tossed their luggage straight into the river, and I then turned around and smiled at them. Just tossing out the trash on my way to work. Don't mention it. Also, we're divorced now. This is my house. If you don't leave, expect the police to come knocking. With that, I slammed the divorce agreement Jessica signed onto the table and headed straight back to the office. After all, now that the company was listed, my time was extremely valuable. A mountain of work was waiting for me. Plus, now that Jessica had returned, I could finally notify HR to handle her termination. After finishing my conversation with HR and heading back to my office, I found Jessica and Logan already sitting inside. As soon as Logan saw me, he couldn't help but sneer. Oh, look who it is, Jessica's ex-husband. You were so tough back at the house. I thought maybe you had turned into a big shot after a month, but you're still just working at Jessica's company, huh? Jessica tilted her chin proudly, looking like a rooster strutting around. Chris, it seems I've been too nice to you over the years. That's why you've become selfish and ungrateful. Even if you used dirty tricks to get me to sign the divorce papers and took more than your fair share of assets, so what? Don't forget, I'm the chairman of the company, and you're just one of the employees. I can fire you anytime, and if I mess with your background check a little, I guarantee you'll never work in this industry again. Saying that, she threw a pot onto the table, looking at me with a mocking expression. If you want to stay in the industry, then use your tongue to clean the floor. Maybe then I'll think about giving you a job as a janitor at the company. Before I could respond, Logan chuckled and teased. Jessica, you're just too soft-hearted. Not only do you want to give Chris a job, but you're also letting him drink such expensive coffee. You're really soft on your ex-husband now. I'm getting jealous. Hearing their sarcastic insults, I found it amusing. So much for being the company's CEO. It looked like they had been having fun for the past month and hadn't paid a single bit of attention to the company. She didn't even know she had already been kicked off the board. I shrugged indifferently. Fine. If you're capable, go ahead, fire me. At that moment, Jessica froze, then snorted dismissively. Chris, don't think I don't know what you're thinking. Do you really think the company can't survive without you? Let me tell you the truth. Do you really think I gave you a month to prove yourself? You really thought you were going to be made vice president? No, I was just using your experience to turn around the company's decline and fix the situation with the poor performance and stock drop. Now that the business adjustments are done, I can replace you with a dog for a director, and it wouldn't matter. What do you think your value is now? Logan, standing nearby, looked extremely impatient and waved his hand dismissively. Jessica, stop wasting your breath on him. Talking to someone like him is wasting time. Once he gets blacklisted and can't find a job, he'll come crawling back to us, begging for help. Hearing this, I smirked and walked with an air of superiority. I ordered HR to prepare the termination letter. Soon, HR came back with the letter, but instead of handing it to me, they handed it to Jessica. At this, Jessica's face turned sour. What's this for? Are you new here? Don't you know I'm the company's CEO? At that moment, I looked at her with disdain and slammed the board's appointment letter onto the table with a cold laugh. Oh right, you probably don't know. After a unanimous vote in the shareholders meeting, I'm the new CEO now. And you, from this moment on, are fired. Fired? Jessica froze for a moment, then burst out laughing, as if she had heard the funniest joke ever. Watching her laugh uncontrollably, I couldn't help but think, is she insane? She laughed so hard, tears almost streamed down her face. Between gasps for breath, she said, "Your CEO? You're firing me?" "Chris, have you been working overtime so much that you lost your mind? Even if there was a shareholders meeting, what gives you the right to fire me without my knowledge?" She had a smug look on her face, convinced that victory was already in her hands. But seeing her ignorance and arrogance, I couldn't hold back a laugh. This fool still didn't realize that she had already signed the share transfer agreement. She didn't own a single share anymore, nothing. Hearing my laughter, Logan, who was standing by her side, grew irritated. He looked at me with contempt and sarcastically said, "Go ahead and laugh. Enjoy your last moments. The only thing you still have going for you is that big mouth of yours." He walked over and put his arm around Jessica's shoulders in a protective manner, saying, "Now get on your knees and apologize. Maybe, just maybe, if she remembers how much work you've done for the company, she'll let you clean the office and run errands. Otherwise, just wait and see. You'll be blacklisted from the whole industry." Logan's words fueled Jessica's arrogance further. She smashed a cup on the desk, shattering it into pieces, then pointed at the shards on the floor and tilted her chin up, ordering, "Chris, clean the floor with your tongue. If there's even a single drop left, I'll make sure you're fired and that the whole industry knows what a joke you are. It's the end of the year. Let's see where you'll find a job after this." She acted like I was nothing more than dirt beneath her feet, but instead of cowering, I stood up. Jessica thought I had finally given in and increased her smug smile. "Now you're getting it. At least you know when to bend. Go on, start licking. Don't waste more of my time." She waved her hand dismissively, as if brushing away an annoying fly. But before she could say another word, I grabbed the pot of coffee and splashed it straight into her face. Scalding hot coffee ran down her cheek, ruining her carefully applied makeup. Jessica stood there in complete shock. It took her a few seconds to react before she screamed at the top of her lungs. "Ah!" She pointed at me, her hand trembling with rage, unable to speak. "Chris, are you trying to get yourself killed? Security, throw him out now!" She shouted until her voice cracked, as if she had suffered an enormous injustice. But once she finished yelling, no one responded. Jessica was stunned, unable to understand why no one was listening to her orders. At this, I couldn't help but sneer, then threw the share transfer document she had signed earlier right in her face. "No one's gonna listen to you. However, before you get kicked out for causing trouble, why don't you take a look at this?" Jessica picked up the document and quickly skimmed through it. Her expression shifted from confusion to shock, then to disbelief. "Share transfer document?" she mumbled, staring intensely at the signature on the paper. This can't be." Suddenly, she looked up, pointing at me and screaming hysterically, "This is forged. You forged my signature." Logan leaned in to take a look, and his face instantly turned pale with anger. "Chris, you forged documents. I'm calling the police to have you arrested." He pointed at me, shouting indignantly. I shrugged nonchalantly, giving him an indifferent look. "Call the police if you want. I don't care." Jessica's hands trembled as she clutched the document. Her face, once filled with confidence and arrogance, had drained of all color. She frantically flipped through the pages, her eyes darting back and forth, searching for any sign of hope that this was a mistake. No, this isn't real," she muttered, her voice barely a whisper. Logan, still seething, snatched the papers from her hands and examined them himself. His expression darkened as he realized the truth. This is impossible," he shouted. "Jessica, tell me you didn't sign this. Tell me this is some trick." Jessica's knees buckled, and she collapsed into a chair, her breathing ragged. I didn't read it. I thought it was just a financial report." I crossed my arms, watching them both unravel before me. "That's the problem, Jessica. You never paid attention. You never thought for a second that the man who stood by your side for 7 years might have learned a thing or two." Jessica's eyes snapped up to me, filled with desperation. "Chris, we can fix this, right? You don't actually want to take everything from me. We built this company together. I was confused." Logan came back, and I held up a hand, cutting her off. "No, Jessica, I built this company. You just put your name on it, and the moment you had a chance, you tossed me aside for a man who abandoned you once before." Logan scowled. "So what? Jessica and I belong together. You were just a backup plan. You think you can humiliate us like this and walk away unscathed?" I smirked. "Humiliate you? No, Logan, you did that all on your own. But don't worry, I'll be generous. I'll give you both exactly what you deserve." I turned to the security team standing by the door. "Escort them out. Effective immediately, Jessica Greene and Logan Parker are permanently banned from this building." Jessica shot up from her seat. "Chris, wait, you can't." 2 guards stepped forward, firmly gripping her arms. She struggled, but it was useless. Logan lunged toward me, rage flashing in his eyes, but the security team grabbed him before he could take another step. "You'll regret this," Logan spat as they dragged him toward the exit. Jessica twisted around, her voice cracking. Chris, please, we can fix this. Just give me another chance. I walked to the window and looked out at the city skyline. Goodbye, Jessica. As the doors slammed shut behind them, a strange silence filled the room. For the first time in 7 years, I was free, and I was just getting started.